8 minutes after 7 o'clock, this and every Wednesday, Tobago Talks, and when Tobago Talk, we listen. Tutor representative there in Tobago and for Tobago, Braden Roberts. He joins me on the Zoom line. Always great to see you, Mr. Roberts. Good morning and welcome again.
Good morning to your team. Good morning to the viewers and the listeners.
I mean, if it's one thing I know, Mr. Roberts, you bring it real. You don't hold back and you give us the scoop on all what's happening in Tobago and, of course, via the tutor developments. And we'll get to one of the recent developments later on. But let me ask you, Tobago, as it pertains to security, some of the issues you're going through, I recognize via some of the notes I received prior to the interview that there are some concerns, shortage of staff. I mean, I remember distinctly when you brought up security concerns some months ago, I was taken aback because I'm saying, well, I'm not expecting that from Tobago. But you let me know in no uncertain terms, yes, there are some concerns. And I just want to find out from then to now, is there any kind of ease up? And what are some recommendations going forward to ensure that the students and teachers alike are safe at the various institutions there, the schools in Tobago? Give us the latest.
Right. Well, based on the interactions I would have had, I don't believe that there has been any significant change or any movement. Now, there won't be an overnight fix, and school is becoming unsafe or more unsafe because of the mindset of the people. So if we don't change how we teach our young ones, we're going to have persons.
Seems that we have a little technical issue there with Braden. Let's try to reconnect with Mr. Roberts out there in Tobago just to continue our very important discussion concerning the security issues there, not only in Tobago, but here in Trinidad. We saw what happened earlier this week with Barrackpore. That was a major kind of shake-up and scare for especially the parents. So much so that on Tuesday, lots of parents did not send their students to school. Again, whoever put their fingers to the keyboard and sent that email, I read this on Monday and I felt a kind of way. The wording was very strong. And you don't take these threats, especially in this current climate, this 2024, lightly at all. So parents, as you're seeing there via our bureau, pulling up in the rain, midday, to get their child from school. Rightfully so. Mr. Roberts, welcome back. You was telling me that obviously it's not an overnight fix and some serious work needs to be done to ensure safety and more so confidence. Go right ahead.
Yes, and my apologies, the internet just where I'm saying. But the mindset of the persons who are in our school compound needs to change. And if we don't change the way in which we teach, and that's what I've been advocating for the longest while, we're going to have persons failing in the education system and becoming parents, and raising similar-minded persons to then follow suit. So I don't know that any significant thing has been done in that area. And as mentioned before, it wouldn't be a overnight thing. So I'm hoping that the discussions and the visions of the secretary, the minister, it comes off of just being an idea and we start doing the things that we need to do in our schools. In terms of the security officers, yes, we're going to continue to count and call on our security officers, but it's so much they can do. It's the same thing in the society where we are hoping that the police officers will have a curb on crime, but
let me ask you,
for police officers.
Let me ask you, Mr. Roberts. Let me ask
what needs to change.
Let me ask you really fast from the tutor perspective, if you could outline for us, for the audience looking on, what are the limitations of these said officers? Could they engage if students get into a brawl? Are they able, based on whatever restrictions or whatever the job description and structure is at this point in time, via tutor and I would imagine the ministry, to intervene? What's the limitations? What can they do and what they can't do?
Well, I was fortunate to be in a meeting with the commissioner when they came to Tobago, when she came to with her team, and the submission was they do have the power of arrest and so on. However, these security officers, just as teachers and police officers, they are very mindful of all these children's rights and so on, that when you intervene, the amount of reporting and the way in which you may intervene may cost you a job. So we have security officers, as we have had experience in Mason Secondary School, where one of the officers intervened, the child would have allegedly kicked the officer, and the officer, I guess, responded. And the response of the officer required her to then have visceral reporting. Her job was then questioned. So a lot of these security officers who are not so much trained for such, they are very conscious of the risk of losing the job based on the way in which they intervene. So a lot of them find creative ways to absent themselves. I remember when I was in the primary school, a parent came up, and while the parent is coming up, the security officer conveniently decided to search the back of the school. And then when the parent came to the back of the school, the security was back at the front. So some of these officers try to avoid being in a position where they have these extensive reporting where their job may be questioned.
Understood. I'm watching a development, and I want to thank you for that clarification. I'm watching a development via The Guardian today, page 7. I'm sure you saw the article yourself. It says, tutor meeting with the Ministry of Education falls through. And this is a development that took place just yesterday. What can you tell us? What more can you tell us concerning this particular development, and why did said meeting fall flat? Talk to us.
Right, so it's very disappointing the way in which the ministry is treating people issues. The persons at the ministry would see files on their desk and don't understand that these files represent lives, and sometimes the breadwinner of a household. So it's not just the file in front of you, and we have personal things to discuss. We would have been at the CPO level, at the ministry level. We haven't had a fruitful meeting with the ministry for some time. However, there was some policy stuff that we needed to treat with the CPO, and the CPO would have arranged a tripartite meeting with the CPO, the ministry, and tutor. This had been in the making for some time, since last year. And for the ministry to come the day before the meeting was supposed to take place and ask for a postponement, to me, is a bit disrespectful in that we don't understand how we are impacting the lives of the persons that tutor is representing. So we would have had somewhat of a meeting with the DPS afterwards and gave some clarity, got some information, and I'm trusting that by tomorrow they indicated they'll give a new date, that we're going to get a date where we can really address the issues.
Was any reason given for the postponement?
Well, what was indicated, they needed to collect data. I don't know what data they need to collect again. We had it's months in making for this meeting. And there are several other things that tutor would want to have addressed at the ministry, and I don't know what level of seriousness the permanent secretary and so on is putting towards these things. Is that things are just being delayed. Our members are looking to tutor to resolve these things that is aged old. Some of these things are 10 years, 15 years. Persons have been struggling with particular matters, and we are not getting any commitment from the ministry in treating with these things.
Let me ask, are you all willing to, well, up the ante, shake the cage, as it were, if, let's say, this meeting, this new date that's put forward is, again, let's say another postponement is forthcoming. Are you all willing to really shake the cage a little bit to get your point across? Because I'm trying to figure out important issues. You all want to meet, trash it out. Clearly it's not happening and it's just being pushed back. How far you're willing to go to really make some noise to ensure that this meeting takes place?
Well, what I would say, our commitment is to our members, and we will do all in our power to ensure our members' issues are addressed. However, we take things in stride. So in the way in which we are even thankful for you raising this topic now, we bring it to the public that we need to have these meetings. So at least the pressure is there on the permanent secretary. I trust that the minister is listening and would be able to have a conversation with the permanent secretary, because, we don't want unstable settings in our education system. It's not that tutor is would say as an action junkie. We just want to go on the streets and protest and make noise and disrupt the school. It's not that at all. We try our very best to be amicable and work along with the ministry, with the division, and the way in which they respond will cause us to then use other methods. But it's not for us to just look to the extreme measures. we are asking and we are calling on the permanent secretaries to get things together, to get a team together, and let's take education seriously so we can address the issues before us. And I mean, after this stage, of course, our executive would meet and see how best we could work around making another step.
Yeah, understood. I want to take it back to Tobago right now. Are the schools there? Well, we saw what happened with Barrackpore this week. Very unfortunate circumstance. The Minister of Education, she went on record to totally denounce that particular action, and rightfully so. Any kind of scenario similar, any kind of threats at all to schools in Tobago? What's the latest coming out of the Sister Isle?
Well, fortunately, we haven't had any since the term started. But we have persons in society, unfortunately, who enjoy chaos. So, given these threats and sitting back to watch to see how teachers and the ministry and the division will respond is quite unfortunate. The only way we could make Trinidad and Tobago a better place is through education. And if persons are willing to destabilize that, it's something beyond understanding. But thankfully, we don't have a situation like that in Tobago. I trust that our leaders are working behind the scenes to see what things we can put in place should there be a situation where it comes to Tobago, and we can tell we have these threats and then we are scampering to see what we can do in the interim.
What's the conversation like with ACP Hazel to ensure that patrols are forthcoming outside schools that might be deemed a bit troublesome, to ensure children get home in a timely manner, and to ensure there are no school fights? We would have heard, and you would have explained to me certain scenarios on the Sister Isle. What's the conversation like and the relationship like with the TTPS there in Tobago?
Right, so the last, as I indicated, we had a meeting with the Commissioner, Hazel would have been there as well, and they would have indicated their desire to increase the patrols and so on. However, the patrols will be as useful as the vehicles are within sight. Once those vehicles are no longer in sight, persons they have that level of bravery now. And we are seeing where a lot of adults are coming into the school to assist their relative in sight. I would have been on my school visits, and at one of the schools I would have been at, the amount of noise and the fracas I was hearing as if there would have been some fight taking place. We were in the staff room at the time where some of the teachers went out to see what was happening. But it's not just having the police patrol. That would be effective just for the time the vehicle pattern has indicated. We need to be able to have some kind of interaction with the parents, the students. We have a new goal and strategies towards having the focus where it needs to be. But I think we kind of close the eyes sometimes and hope things get better, and not getting where the leadership have that seriousness towards addressing this particular matter, and is more about having a comment whenever the media ask for it.
Yeah, understood. Mr. Roberts, as always, thank you for stepping in, for coming on, for sharing with us, and I look forward to our interaction in the future. All the best.
All right, thanks, Mr. Williams.
With that being said, let's take a pause. We come back, more discussions around the corner. We work our way to 8 o'clock, and we get some details concerning the World Innovation Day. It's actually April 21st. Details after the break.